Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon, TOHA 2020. My name is John Cadena, and I will be presenting today my presentation entitled The National Chicano Student Walkout Conference, Telling Stories and Preserving History. If you just bear with me one moment, I have to share a screen. I've actually never done this before, so just give me one quick second. Okay, so that is sharing. And we will just begin. Perfect. Okay, so as I said, my name is John Cadena, and my presentation here is entitled The National Chicano Student Walkout Conference, Telling Stories and Preserving History. If you don't mind, I just made some quick note cards so I can make sure that I stay on track here. So let's go ahead and begin. We can begin with my abstract here. Since we have a little bit of time, I can go ahead and read that to you. So the purpose of this was for presenting this collection of oral histories was to bring the attention to the salvaged stories of walkout participants who organized, participated, and were impacted by the National Chicano student walkouts of the late 1960s and early 1970s. Now, while only a part of a larger collection, it is important for researchers who come across my work now or in the future to become aware of these oral histories as they most definitely contribute toward the development of a structured archive to be used by scholars of all levels for the purpose of learning about the Chicano student walkouts. Some of the admin for use of the information, if any of this can be made available to attendees or viewers by Academia America in San Antonio, Texas, and or the Institute of Mexican American Civil Rights History, currently at Our Lady of the Lake University, also in San Antonio, Texas. This is just a quick history on the Chicano student walkouts. Organized in 1968 with the help of Mayo, the Mexican American Youth Organization, with more than 11,000 students across the United States walked out of their high school classrooms. Their aim was at taking a stand against discrimination, isolation, and academic prejudice. Now, in walking out, students demanded better overall education in the form of better quality teachers, tougher classes, and cleaner bathrooms. As a rising youth, it was of vital importance to students that they be better prepared for success after high school. Demands required that this be done by allowing students of Mexican American descent to be permitted into courses such as chemistry, physics, algebra, trigonometry, calculus, and computer programming. Basically, they wanted to be better prepared for college, to be better prepared to, be able to get themselves out of some of the lower kind of social arenas that, their parents were in, grandparents were in. So equally, it became important that to them that schools permit Mexican American students to be involved in college prep courses, as I just mentioned, as well as integrate culturally inclusive curriculum. So just a quick overview. I came across this project my first semester as a grad student. I attended St. Mary's University in San Antonio for a master's in public history. And that fall, which would have been the fall of 2018, I attended a walkout conference at Our Lady of the Lake University, also in San Antonio. Immediately following that conference, they called for a meeting, and at that meeting, they had an idea. They proposed an idea to create a 2019 National Walkout Conference. And basically, the meeting was looking for volunteers. Who wanted to do what, who could be involved, and I myself, I grew up in kind of the lower middle class, kind of that stereotypical, I didn't know if I was going to go to college, join the military type of thing. And a lot of my work previously is within the inner city. And so I've always been I've always kind of felt kind of connected to that kind of minority, looked down upon person. So when they asked for volunteers, I mean, I jumped at the opportunity. Still in my first semester of my master's program, I knew that I mean, I had no business, doing something like this, but I saw it as an opportunity. I saw it as a chance for me to, build on the skills that I was learning as I was learning them. So I volunteered. And then, we had the initial committee meeting where they kind of, talked about this is what we're looking for, this is what we want. They were looking for oral histories. At that time, we didn't know if we were going to capture audio or video. They wanted to be able to collect material, so kind of like a history harvest of sorts. And they knew they wanted to record the sessions. They wanted panels, so they wanted to be able to record the sessions. And they knew they wanted to incorporate photography into the conference. So myself and another person there by the name of Nati Rahman, who attends San Antonio College, we basically made up what became known as the archival committee. And so part of that committee was basically being in charge of, making a record of the conference. So again, being a first year graduate student, all I knew was Omeka. At that time, the institute, which the material is now stored at, was still in its infancy stages. We knew it was going to happen. We knew it was coming. We just didn't know when it was coming. We didn't know how long it was going to take. We already knew it was going to be Our Lady of the Lake. We just didn't know kind of what it was going to look like. So initially, they were looking for just a place to hold everything. How can we stably hold everything, keep it safe, so that when the institute is ready for it, we can basically give it to them. And so that's kind of what my role was in that. And like I said, I had used Omeka in my first semester of my grad program, so basically I knew how to use it, and I sold it. I sold Omeka like no other, because I didn't want them to go onto another platform, which I wasn't familiar with, and then I look like I don't know what I'm doing, basically. So then we kind of discussed equipment. As you can see, I placed budget first. That was one of the first things I asked. What's my budget, or what is our budget as a archival committee? And as nicely as they could, they told me there is no budget. I personally didn't expect to get paid, but I thought there might be a budget for equipment, and as it turns out, there wasn't. So that was kind of something that I learned very quickly, and I had to figure out very quickly how to, kind of get over that hurdle. So we knew that we needed video cameras. We knew we needed voice recorders. We knew we needed cameras for photography. If we were going to do a history harvest of sorts, we were going to need a scanner and a hard drive. Ultimately, we decided to not do Omeka. I should have pointed that out on the last slide here, but I actually took in if you can see right here to your left, I actually took in a mock up of Omeka. And as I was selling it, I was showing them how it worked, showing the planning committee, what we can do with it, how we can use it. And ultimately, like I said, we decided to not use Omeka and to go with hard drives, basically. We decided to hold everything on hard drives and wait for the institute, basically. Wait for the institute and kind of see what they want, how they wanted to handle it. So because I knew I didn't have a budget, and because I knew I didn't really have equipment, I had my personal camera for photography, which also I knew could record videos. Because of public history work I've done, I had 2 voice recorders, and that was about it. I have a little portable scanner, but it was nowhere near what we needed. So without a budget, I had to go in search of, stakeholders, which is something I learned about during my master's program, and kind of how to work with them and how to kind of, bring them into projects. So I began with Breckenridge High School, which is BHS. Breckenridge High School is a high school in the San Antonio ISD district in San Antonio. And I began with them because, like I mentioned, some of my previous work is with inner city kids and kind of that like minority population. And similar to other schools in San Antonio ISD, Breckenridge has a kind of a magnet program. Their magnet program is in like video production and things like that. And I had been told by somebody that they do, kind of like pro bono kind of projects, as a way to kind of give the kids experience. So that felt right up my alley. That felt right up my alley in that it gave the kids an opportunity to, come on to a big project. It gave them the experience. It gave them the resume kind of bullet points. They were inner city kids. So they may or may not ever have this opportunity again. But for whatever reason that fell through, I had to kind of communicate with the magnet program director, and I began communicating with her over the summer of 2019. So about 6 months or so before the actual conference. And probably because it was summer, it just fell through. We didn't really, we weren't able to maintain contact that well. And so knowing I had to find equipment, I had to find, people to kind of come on and help me, I moved on, regrettably. From there, I moved on to St. Mary's University, which is where I was at, which is where I was attending. By this point, I was into the summer before my last semester. So I graduated in December of 2019, and I contacted Breckenridge High School and St. Mary's University the summer of 19. And I contacted them because by this point I had already chosen my new schedule. So I knew I was going to be in a video production class. And so I figured I could maybe, I guess, kind of weasel in an assignment into that course if I could talk to the professor. And, I could get free equipment, I could get free help in that I could pull the students in. And again, that fell through. For some of the same reasons. It was summertime, nobody's really trying to think about work over the summer. And so I basically had to wait until kind of school started again. And at that point, I began to communicate with Our Lady of the Lake, which is where the institute is now at, with some of the professors there, as well as one of the professors there was actually on the planning committee. And then I also began to speak with the University of Texas at San Antonio. And both were really interested, both ultimately became our stakeholders. And they helped us with a lot of the equipment and a lot of the kind of manpower, which helped a whole lot, made everything a whole lot easier. And then from there, I moved on to some well, kind of as I guess collectively, this is all kind of happening collectively. But we were also looking at some of the administrative stuff. So I brought in some of the forms, and some of the drafts of the forms. So I brought in a draft of a donor release form, which is kind of giving the institute and everybody kind of full authority to do everything. And then I brought in draft questions. And I'm sorry if you see me shuffling here. I pulled stuff aside to kind of show, because I didn't have it on my screen here. So this was the draft of the questions. It was just, I compiled questions and took them into the committee, and I'm scratching stuff out as they're saying no, 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 no. And then I brought in a draft of the interview summary form, which is something I just took from my program. We had done oral interviews, and so I brought in a draft of that, and I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And that, I believe, ultimately did get approved. I knew that we were going to need to have, or I assumed it'd be good to have a copy of the Creative Commons license deed to show participants, so that they knew kind of all that deal. And I also brought in a draft version of the volunteer list of duties, which didn't get approved, but ultimately we ended up kind of altering that, and I can show you that here in a second. So then one of the other things that I had to do was I had to kind of create a budget. The committee, at some point, I came back to the committee and I'm like, look, I need stuff. We have stakeholders, we have shareholders, but that's not enough. We need things. So they told me just create a budget. In fact, create 3 budgets, and we'll choose from one of those budgets. So this is a copy of the budget I created, and I kind of tried to be as cost effective as I could, from the top being my wish list to the very bare bones of in the red. And then around this time also, our shareholders, our stakeholders at the Our Lady of the Lake, at this time we also introduced the actual release form that we used, which is, right here in this picture right here. And then we also introduced the final version of the questions, which is not too much different from what I just showed you. I can show you that one more time. So this is the draft, but the original was very similar to this. So the final preliminary stuff, we're just kind of checking through everything. We're checking with Our Lady of the Lake, checking with UTSA. Again, the budget wasn't there, so we kind of had to pull stuff together. We had a final tech count. One thing that was determined was the transcribing. The transcribing we determined that we weren't going to do that as a committee, that we were going to allow the institute to do that. And preliminary conference work. So prior to the conference, we were creating lists, just tons of lists, list of, who was going to participate in the oral histories, who was going to participate in the artifact contribution. We're making a list of planned sessions, and one session that I wanted to highlight just real quickly, because it actually just happened within the past like maybe month or two. One of the things that we had planned during the conference was to highlight an ongoing kind of work by my archive committee member, Nati. As I mentioned, she's a student at San Antonio College, and she was working on a campaign to change the mascot, which is the ranger, the Texas Ranger. And that just happened recently. So I wanted to kind of highlight that real quick. But so yeah, we were working on the preliminary conference work, and this is kind of when we began to see everything kind of come together. UTSA's capabilities. We went ahead and did a practice interview to kind of see how it's all going to work. And then for the conference itself, we did a couple different things. So we did the introductory ceremonies. This is everything that I was kind of managing or kind of maintaining throughout the conference. We had people in the opening ceremonies, video recording. We had a children's exhibit, which was mostly like photography. We did oral histories, and we had a history harvest. The history harvest ultimately wasn't as successful as we wanted it to be, but it was there. So we did collect some stuff. Day 2 was at Our Lady of the Lake, and we did oral history interviews. We did audio interviews. We had Our Lady of the Lake recording the panel discussions, and then again the history harvest. UTSA was the third day. UTSA was the first day and third day. And again, we had interviews. This is kind of where we really saw how much we needed UTSA. So we had oral interviews, and basically they were doing that, and they did a fantastic job at doing that. They did such a good job. Because throughout the process, we hadn't really seen the capabilities of UTSA because they're a bigger university than well, they were one of the biggest, actually they are the biggest in San Antonio. So it was all conversation, but we didn't really see what they had. We really saw what they had on this day, and they did such a good job. And then with my personal camera, I was recording the panel discussions, kind of running around back and forth, trying to get as many as I could. And we had a history harvest, which again wasn't that successful. And then we recorded the closing ceremonies. So post-conference, we had transcriptions, again, the transcriptions. So I again offered to do the transcription. And they told me, look, I presented this to the committee. I'm like, look, I can do it. I'll do it. But they ultimately, wanted the institute to take care of that, which is fine. It's not necessarily a big deal. I went ahead and did 4 additional interviews with some of the participants who were either part of the committee, who were also part of the movement, or could not make it to the conference. And I had to kind of match the release forms with the interviews, make sure that was all lined up, kind of communicate with the stakeholders, make sure that, everybody kind of got their piece of what we agreed upon, and, just deliver a package, a good package, or, the best package that I could, I guess, as a student. And so, that kind of wraps up my presentation. That was kind of the bulk of, what was actually about 1.5 years worth of work. So these are just real quick, some of my sources, and then some of my release forms here. And then that's about it. Just very quickly, if I could, just want to give a quick thank you to the committee who allowed me to do this, who had faith in me to do this. Mario Campion, Ezequiel Peña, Valerie Martinez, and to the TOHA Committee 2 for allowing me to present this. And thank you for your attention. And are there any questions?